Hi, this is Patricia Finney, also known as P.F. Chisholm. I write the Sir Robert Carey mystery series of historical novels and a lot of other things. And I do the Historical Novelist Guide to ... something. And today it is marriage. The Historical Novelist Guide to marriage. Marriage particularly in the 16th century, when it really wasn't romantic. Most people didn't choose their husband or their wife. The women didn't choose their husband, the husbands didn't usually choose for themselves their wife. There was none of this random finding of people. It was all very carefully organised by the parents. The parents, and this is for ordinary people, this is not for aristocrats. Aristocrats had a whole other layer to contend with, which was money, influence, politics, all that. But even in ordinary working people's lives, most people didn't choose their husband or their wife. They didn't choose their spouse. What usually happened was that the parents would put out feelers among their friends, and they would be looking for a possible match. And this would be well known because of course people lived much closer to each other and they talked to each other more then. So there was an enormous amount of gossip and speculation and things going on. Pretty much anybody, any bright young man or bright young woman under the age of 25 would be the subject of this speculation. And generally speaking, the mother would organise finding the match for her children. And she would ask around, she would look for people who might be a good match. Ideally, they would, especially for a girl, they would look for somebody a little higher level than the girl. For a boy, that it wasn't so important. They would be looking for somebody who lived close. They would be looking for somebody who had a kind of trade or job which would match with their own. Which caused, this was very complicated. You had your shoemakers would perhaps want to have a match with the daughter of somebody who was a haberdasher, or perhaps a sword maker. There would be all sorts of different levels and gradations of suitable match. And then they would be invited. It used to be for tea in Victorian times, but they would just be invited to visit, perhaps for dinner. That would be lunchtime for us. And the whole thing would progress quite slowly and carefully, because neither sets of parents wanted a match which didn't work. It had to be a good match, and so there had to be a possibility of friendship between the husband and the wife, the future husband and the wife. There had to be at least that possibility. There had to be a possibility of the wife knowing enough about husbandry, being competent at accounts, able to support her husband in his trade, and the husband, well, he should really be at least a journeyman, certainly not an apprentice. And so all of this careful arrangement, sometimes there would be no possible candidates, sometimes they would have to look further afield, sometimes there would be too many. And the whole thing finally happened when usually people were betrothed, that is engaged, and this was effectively a promise to marry. So sometimes there would be a certain amount of sexual action before the actual day to see if, test her out, see if she's fertile, but not necessarily. There would be the banns read for 3 weeks, just as they are now, before the wedding. There would be a wedding and a wedding feast, very important, and aristocrats had wedding feasts that went on for days. And they would be wed in church. The bride would wear quite probably red, or at least a very nice new dress, which often was red. The husband would wear his best clothes. And everybody would have a bloody good party. But the whole thing was quite businesslike. Nobody expected romance, love. That really wasn't on the cards. It was all about a business arrangement to join two families so that they could both get more prosperous together. And that was true from almost the lowest levels of society right the way up to the aristocrats who, as I mentioned, were thinking about politics a lot. And this all normally happened when both the bride and the groom were in their 20s. Don't believe the nonsense about Elizabethan people marrying very young. They married in their mid-20s, just like us. So that's just a little bit about marriage. If you liked this, if you enjoyed it, scroll down, leave a comment. If you haven't already done so, go and sign up for my email list on my website, and you can also now get a freebie if you do it. And this is Patricia Finney saying farewell.